Hey everyone, this is Bjorn Englen of Soul Sign. I am here at the Rockin Roundtable with Mattias and Shay. I'm ready to rock.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Rockin Roundtable. My name is Shay.
And my name is Mattias. Today we have the guest, one of the best bass players in the world, Mr. Bjorn Englen. And here he is. Woo!
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hi.
Great to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a while since we saw you the last time. Was it NAM, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah,
Time
January.
flies, man. Yeah.
Yeah, even though we talked a couple of times on the phone, but yeah, last time I saw you face to face, it's been a few months. So good to see you again, brother.
Have been. Yeah, you too. Both of you. Awesome.
Awesome.
Every time it's a pleasure.
Likewise.
Huge pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you.
So what we want to talk about today. So today it's April 3rd, and tomorrow, I think it's going to be today actually, because we're going to release this on the 4th. And it's the new album release of Soul Sign, the album Desert Fire. Tell me about it.
Well, it's long in the making, and we've had some hiccups, trying to connect all the dots as far as how to practically do the release and so forth, and without getting into any details. But it's out on Earache distribution on all digital platforms and through a nice label that we found, Rocks Records slash No Life Till Metal, which is part of Rocks Records, and that's out on CD in United States and Canada. And if people want to get it, the vinyl or the downloads or the CD, worldwide shipping, you go to soulsignband.com. But the album's been uh, great to make, fun to make, and some of the music, a lot of the music started out with me and the drummer Mike. Um, Jamming on stuff, and we came up with some of the ideas. Some of the stuff is stuff I've been sitting on for years. Some of the stuff I put on the shelf and pulled back down from the shelf, not realizing why haven't we recorded this before, because I love the songs. So I couldn't answer that myself, but here they are. A couple of the tracks, like Building the Road's been around a long time. Blue Light in a Dream been around a long time. I kind of slightly rewrote the approach to that song, but that's a song that's from the 90s. So is Blue Building the Road as well. Can't Wait is another track that was recorded with me and my dear friend Magnus Anderson. We co-wrote that one, the music for that one back in the 90s as well, when we started the band. So there's some of the tracks are, but we love them. We love the tracks, and the guys in the band love them. So, but a lot of them were me and Mike jamming and spontaneously just coming up with stuff. We would just press record, and in a rehearsal space, just we started playing together, and then the songs sort of like wrote themselves. We didn't overanalyze anything really. We just kind of, he played something, I played something, and then there was a tune, and we built it from there. I'd come home and add some guitar tracks to it, and rough tracks, and obviously Rob would replace almost all of them, and and with that in mind, and the Desert Fire was an interesting story because Mike's a dear friend and a great guy. I'm so lucky to have him in the band and as a brother. And it was interesting because years ago we our previous drummer in the band had moved to the East Coast and could no longer be in the band. It wasn't like he left the band; it just wasn't practically possible for him to be in the band, really, because we wanted to rehearse and do recording and pre-production out here and stuff like that, and as well as shows and out here in California. So he moved, and we needed a drummer. We had a couple of one-off shows on a weekend up in the mountains of California, just playing covers. And I asked you guys want to do it? And they said sure, but we couldn't find a drummer. So I called all sorts of people. I never made more than two phone calls in my life, and I talked to about 40 people, and that's probably the first time in my life I became seriously religious, because I was like, there's somebody up there pulling the strings. And the first guy I didn't call was Mike's brother, who sadly passed away about a year ago.
Oh,
And he was a great guy, great drummer I'd work with, but he's always busy, so I didn't call him. But I ran out of options, so I was like, well, I'm going to call Chad. His name is Chad, and Chad said, well, I can't do it, but I'll send my brother. I'm like, what do you mean send my brother? That sounds like a little. He's like, no, 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 no. Trust me, you're going to love him. And that was basically it. He came and played, and we played not even one song and looked at each other, and it just clicked. And I said, here's a CD. Listen to the CD, pick 2 songs, any song, and let us know, and we'll jam on a couple of songs in about a week or 2. So about a week went by. I called him and I said, Mike, have you picked a couple of songs? He said, yes. It doesn't matter. I know the whole album. So that was just the beginning of the the rest is history. And so he came into the rehearsal space, and he drove 2 hours to get. He lives out in the desert. He drove 2 hours into rehearsal and set up his stuff. And me and Rob walked in, the guitar player, and there's like smoke coming out behind him, and we're like, did he bring a smoke machine or something? And it turned out it was this espresso maker, so he brought us espresso. He loves this espresso, and he lightened up
Score.
mugs for everybody in the band. And
uh,
yeah, so we were like, oh, it's scoring plus points already. So we started playing the first song, and about a minute into the song, he stops and stands up and he goes like, hey guys, stop. It doesn't go 2 times before the second pre-chorus. It goes 3 times. Let's do it again. So he's basically correcting us, and we're looking at each other and go like, wow, this guy just gave the gig to himself.
oh
So
man, that is
it's
so cool.
so I use that story a lot, and when I do master classes and clinics and tell my students like, hey, I have an audition coming up, and I said, let me tell you a story, if you really want the gig, this is how you do it. You don't
Yeah,
even have to bring the espresso maker, but like learning the songs, so you knowing the songs like you wrote them, there's basically the
right.
trick really. But
Yeah,
yeah, and
come in prepared, be professional, and lead. Right.
100%. And I think as a drummer, especially because you are the anchor of the band and you are leading the band. And without a
Yeah.
great drummer, I mean, especially as a bass player, I don't care how good the bass player is. If the drummer's not good, I can't play. It's
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah. I mean,
So
especially
it's
as a bass player, I would assume. I mean, you guys are the
mhm.
foundation of everything, right? So the bottom end.
Yeah, that's where it
So
all starts. And we love writing this way. I love recording that way. And then you like building a house, people kind of start backwards. And I've done a lot of sessions where there's drums and guitar and I'll lay the bass last, and it's fine. It works too, but it's nice when the drummers are actually listening to me while we're recording. So we
mm,
recorded a tracks, and I took all the tracks home. We recorded them in Mike's studio, and I took them home, and I was like, well, I'm going to replace some of the bass tracks here. And I started. Some of them I did replace, maybe 1 or 2 I replaced, but most of them was like, okay, I can get this to be more perfect, but I'm not going to be able to capture the vibe and the energy and the feel of him actually listening to me while we're recording. So
right.
the bass and the drums are like this, as
Yeah.
opposed to putting the bass on top of the drums. He's already done. He's not listening to me. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
there's something to say for that, like how the records were recorded back in the day, in the old days, where people would come in and do basic tracks, basically drums, bass, and rhythm guitar that way. You play in a room together, and then somebody makes a
Yeah. Yeah.
mistake. You punch in the bad note or the bad chord, and that there's your basic tracks. And there's
Mm,
something to say for that when you listen to Aerosmith or Led Zeppelin or any of the uh, back then. That's how they did it most of the time. And then as time progressed, of obviously, with the digital recording and
Mm.
you have the luxury of being able to replace and fix and all sorts of stuff, but you're almost shooting
yeah.
yourself in the foot sometimes by doing that.
Right. So Rob and so well, let me ask you this. When you wrote the songs, so you and Mike wrote the majority of the songs, and did you do the vocal melodies as well, or did Mark Bowles come in and do that?
Mike and I I think we did about 4 tracks together. The rest of them were me, and a couple of the songs were collaborations with me and other people in the past. The vocal melodies, the lyrics and the vocal melodies was 90% me. Mark wrote
Yeah.
the majority of the lyrics of one song, and but that was also based off of something I wrote, and then he kind of rewrote the lyrics, and that was
Okay.
great. I kind of wanted him to be part of the writing and then that was the last song we did, which is the last song on the record as well. And then that's a great representation of everybody's playing and the feel of the band really. And the name of the track is Soul Sign, SOLE sign. So
Okay.
and that was a fun one to do. And Rob's guitar work is just smashing on that. And that was something that me and Mike came up with. Mike, actually, the original idea of that track was his, and that sparked that song, and it's awesome. But yeah, so a lot of it was that, and the Desert Fire kind of came out of the title, the song, and which we ended up naming the album. Was The story to that is Mike lives in Palm Desert and he's got a studio out there, and I came
Yeah.
to record and I'd never been there to a studio, and I looked on the wall and I'm going like, what? It was black, and I'm going, did you have a fire here? And I look and the roof's all black. Yeah, and he told me the story of like he had lit some incense or something, and then what he's in the yard, hosing down the backyard, and his daughter comes running. I was like, Dad, the garage is on fire, And he's like, what? And so he had the hose ready already. So he hosed it down, otherwise who would have known? Like, I mean, who would know what would have happened?
Oh
So,
goodness. Yeah.
so that was a Desert Fire story. But then funny enough, when we were recording, I take a break and I open the door and I look out towards the mountains and there's a fire up in the mountains. And I'm like, how can there be a fire in the desert? There's nothing to burn, Even looking at the mountain, it's all like, desert
Yeah.
mountain. There's no trees, nothing. So as far as the eye can see, and you open that door and you can see the flames, just like the album cover, and that was just kind of like the song is kind of like how me and Mike met and how we worked together and how it was kind of like meant to be kind of thing. And his
Yeah.
brother connected us, and that's a beautiful story.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
I really like the album design and everything in Desert Fire, everything. The whole design of it, I like that.
I agree. So let's take a look at that actually.
Thank you.
So this is the website, the Soul Sign Band website, and so we have information about the album, and like we said, April 4th, and have the video here as well, which is a great cover. the White Room cover. And this one, speaking of Rob's guitar playing here, I was just so incredibly amazed by his tone. And obviously your bass playing, we all know how good that is. Also, what I want to see here, so you mentioned how to order the actual physical CD and vinyl and download. So you can do that here from the Soul Sign Band website as well. And
Absolutely.
like Shay said here, the album cover is absolutely sick, and I love the logo. I mean, I've seen the logo before from your previous album, Life in the Dark, right? That came
Thank
out
you. That's it.
2011. Yeah.
And that's a dear friend of mine, Lars Franzen, or Lars Franzén in Swedish. A dear friend of mine that I've known since I was 15 years old. We were one of the first bands I was in. I met him through the guitar player in my band, and I think one of the first times I ever drank alcohol was with Lars. So we go way back. So we bonded early on, and he's just a dear friend and a really good graphic designer. And he did the logo a long time ago. And then when the album cover came, I asked him, because I know he's good, and I told him what I wanted, and it was almost immediately when I saw what he did, I was like, that's great. I love it. I mean, we might have done a couple of small adjustments to it, but it was just simple, to the point, and a logo on top. That's something Wendy Dio told me, like about the first album. She said, why is the logo on the bottom and then you can barely see the logo? And I said,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
right. You should always put the band on top, I think
Yeah,
the Dio albums, the Dio was always on
Right.
top. And I said, that's a really good point. And so I have to thank her for that. You don't, you kind of take things for granted. I think it's just a typical artist minded kind of way of thinking. Not thinking of presentation and business and you want. I mean, the band name is very important, especially for the first record or second record or third
I
record.
agree.
But once you're an established band, down the road, Led Zeppelin, it doesn't really matter. People are going to know
Right.
that it's their record anyway. Physical
Yeah,
Graffiti. I don't
there's no
even know
name.
if you can,
Right.
I don't know if you can see Led Zeppelin on the cover of Physical Graffiti, but everybody knew. I mean, you're such a massive band, it doesn't really matter, I suppose. But yeah,
Yeah.
so Lars did a fantastic, great job, and
Yeah.
he did started off with the idea of the artwork of the rest of the CD artwork, and then Scott Waters of No Life to Metal took over and just did a really really nice job of coloring and readjusting things, and
Yeah.
so it turned out really nice.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I'm putting it back here. Are you going to get this as a tattoo as well?
Don't get me started. Would you put the flame as a tramp stamp or something?
Yeah,
No, I'm
right.
just kidding.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Was
Next
that
to
the
the other
guy in the
one.
Californication that remember that one? Californication when the
Your
guy
ass is on
got
fire.
drunk and yeah. Oh yeah, right.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
So no, so yeah. So hey, good album covers I think is good. It piques, it sparks people's interest. I think and
Yeah, because
and
I remember when, as a kid, when I went to the record store, I was like looking at albums. Look, it doesn't matter if you know the band or not. It's like a cool cover, and I'm like, I have to get this one. Like the first time,
Mhm.
maybe today is not the best cover, but the first Merciful Fate EP it looked like a pencil drawing, and I'm like, wow, this nun
Yeah.
is hanging on the cross.
Well,
even
and it goes without saying, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, but I mean the way we grew up with the bands like two great examples I think is Kiss and Iron Maiden. I mean wonderful bands and great songs, but the album covers were just out of this world. What amazing album covers, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and I think it's like, especially when you're a kid, and you see that Eddie and the Monsters and all that stuff is just so cool,
Yeah. Yeah, and Shay, her first concert was Kiss.
Yes.
Wow.
That's
not bad. That's
yeah,
a good one.
I couldn't hear. I don't know. I was a child, but I couldn't hear for like a week, and I thought it was permanent. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But-
Yeah. There
Loudest
was
band
nobody
in the
used
world.
earplugs back then. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no.
I remember my first big concert was actually Motorhead in my hometown. We never had. I'm from
Oh,
a
really?
small town in Sweden. We never had bands or big concerts, but the hockey arena was very small back then. But they played at the hockey arena, and it was very weird because I don't think they've ever booked any bands there before. So I don't know how the heck whoever promoted that show, how they got in there, but everybody been warned of how loud they were. So the security guards outside the arena had big earmuffs on. But I showed up. I had no earplugs, and I've been lucky, just like you, Shay. Like I should have been deaf after that show, but it was loud. It was very loud. So
Man.
and
But I know
I had my
now.
own fan scene back then. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I want to come back to the fanzine actually, but
Yeah,
I
okay.
remember always when we go to shows now, I mean, you always wear earplugs, and as long as I've known you, you always have earplugs on concerts. So I guess you're protecting your ears better now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've never had any ringing or tinnitus or anything. And I did like an MRI for my arm about a year and a half ago, and it was so loud that I've had tinnitus from that ever since, a little bit in my ears. So, but nothing from music. And I played with some of the loudest bands or loudest artists, and
Yeah.
but I've been religious about the earplugs, and it was even one metal band where I had a double earplug. So I had the
Oh.
plugs and muffs on top. It was a really loud metal band here in California, but we were in a really small space rehearsing, and I was just like, man, this band is that's probably one of the loudest I've ever played with.
I didn't take care of my ears very, very much at all, but I noticed during 2020 that year that I started to have a little bit of tinnitus in my right ear and the ringing, and it was just like, what,
Mm.
what the heck is going on? And it wouldn't stop. I still have it slightly, but it does. It's like if I'm stressed out, I can hear it. But I have to sleep with a sound machine now because if that drowns it out. But it's not too bad. But the left ear is fine. But since then, we've invested in good earplugs and things like that. So it's actually working, at least when we're going out listening to loud music, at least. So because I think that's the main thing.
Right.
Yeah, because I never worn earplugs, but now I do. The ones you bought us, so that's very helpful. And you have to protect yourself as much as you can. So it's a good thing.
100%. And even the people that lost some of the hearing, it's like, hey, protect whatever you have left, because it's once it's gone, it's gone. And there's some implants and things and hearing aid you can get, but why would you want to go down that road if you don't have to?
If you can avoid that, who wants that? I mean,
Right. Yeah.
So
they've come a long way. Wonderful things. I have a couple of friends that are they're twins. They were born deaf, but they got these implants where you can actually have a conversation with them now. Before it was like you were yelling right. I'd be walking behind them somewhere and screaming, and they wouldn't hear nada, like 1% maybe. But so he came a long way with that stuff. So
for sure.
On a side note.
But that's good. Technology. So I know that you guys you toured during November 2024 with Tony McAlpine and Vinnie Moore. That was it 4 or 5 shows around California. So now when the new album comes out, are there any plans to do any touring or shows at least? Anything booked?
Yes, we're looking at California right at this moment, and someone's booking, an agent's booking a couple of shows in Northern California and a couple of shows down here for the end of May. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're just trying to work out the details. So that would be a start, and then we're looking at no dates yet, but we're looking at do something hopefully around the New York area, and then next year go to Europe and do some things, festivals, hopefully, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that would be cool. And I mean, and also you have May 18th, you play with the Disciples at the Rock for Ronnie, right?
Yeah. Are you guys going to be there?
We are planning on it. This is Sunday, but we were thinking about coming in Saturday, and because it's a day show, right? And then head back home Sunday night.
Yeah. Most likely we play probably around 2 or something like that, 2 or 3. Around 2 or 3 at the latest.
Right.
And then there's probably 1 or 2 bands after us. I know Sebastian Bach is going to be the last, and there's going to be like an all-star jam too, which will be either right before us or right after us. So no, we talked about it. We talked with Ira and Jessica because they're obviously going to be there as well. So we'll see. That would be super fun. Okay, cool. Yeah,
and then
it's always a good time.
Yeah, it's always a good time. And I mean, remember when I was riding there, it was so much fun to ride, but that part is not, it's not happening anymore. The actual ride from Glendale to Encino. But
I'm not sure why, but I'm sure that has some practicalities that I can understand. All those bikers, I mean, there's a lot of things that have to kind of click for that to practically be doable, so it's just fun to do the show as a great day. And I love some of those daytime shows. I mean, even when we do festivals and it's daytime, and it's kind of nice. It's refreshing, and then you play early, and then you're done. It's like,
right. Yeah.
It's there's a lot of benefits to that.
Sorry.
So.
Yeah. No, it's cool. And speaking of the bands that always been really good bands there, and now you guys and Sebastian Bach. I mean, we saw Sebastian Bach here in Las Vegas. Was it last summer?
Yeah.
and he sounded absolutely amazing. So he really puts on a good show. And I know a lot of people, well, a lot of singers, they always have a, you know, the older they get, it's more difficult. But I think he's doing a great job still.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah. And
it's rare for male singers past 40 to, and our singer Mark Bowles is just out. He keeps getting better. I don't know how he does it, but it's, you know, obviously you need to know how to sing, and he's got really good technique and all that stuff, and he knows how to take care of his voice. But even so, there's most male singers after 40 or 50. It's just it's tough with a range to hit those high notes.
That's what I always say. Yeah.
Yeah, you always.
When there's a new band that they're in their 20s and the vocalist is hitting these like octaves or these keys that women hit, like way up there, and I'm like, well, good luck when he's like 45, you know, or 55. Good luck hitting that note. But
and that's a good point. And I think I've thought of that too. Like back in the 70s and 80s, when these singers are hitting these high notes, they didn't think they're going to be touring past 50 or 60, and it's definitely not after 70. So if they would have known, they might have recorded or tuned down or something, you know, where to go like, well, I need to be able to hit these notes in 20 years or more. So that's there's something to say for that. I think it's if a band is looking to have a long career, which you never know what's going to happen, but it might be a good idea to maybe take it easy on those falsettos, you know.
Yeah. But I also think it depends on, I mean, a lot of people, especially nowadays, a lot of people take care of themselves better. Back in the day, a lot of drugs and drinking and all that stuff. And it feels like nowadays, so many people are sober and really take care of themselves in a
which way. They didn't do that back in the 80s, but now they are. So, I mean, that helps, but sometimes it could be too late.
Big time.
Yeah.
Totally. And the big thing is the smoking and the drinking too, obviously, and just and all around the sleep and all these things. But smoking is something that I think really helps that you don't see a lot of people do anymore, period, really much. So
yeah, overall, I think people smoke less, right, than they did back in the 80s. Well, I think that different regions, like in Europe, some countries, they have tons of smokers still.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I was thinking, these vocalists, I mean, you have been playing with the best of the best. Mark Bowles is a good example, but also Ripper Owens. And he also, his voice is still exceptional in my opinion, the last time I heard him. So
incredible. I just saw him. We played at Whacking with the Dio Disciples back in August, and I went to see a Ripper sing with KK Priest, KK's Priest, and Ripper is just better than ever, like unbelievable. And he even said it himself, like but he's really taken care of himself. He's always been pretty good. I don't know if he ever smoked cigarettes maybe back in the day, but he's never been into drugs or partying or drinking heavily or any of that. But I think he's taken even better care of himself now, and he's just astounding.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, because he's always at the gym. He's like, Ripper is ripped. So
yeah, is living up to his name now, really.
Right. Yeah. No, it's cool. And I mean, we are such a big fans of musicians in general, as you know, and we always listen to music, and we always keep up on, what's happening with different bands and if they release new music. So we are super happy now that you have finally, after 14 years, right, finally releasing
it's been almost 14,
yeah.
God, that's insane.
But I know you have had this album. I mean, you have had the songs for a long time, right? So
we have, and it's just been a matter of doing the tracks in different places. And sometimes, when people go into a studio and they do one track at a time, and you take the whole band and you camp out for 3 weeks and just do one song a day or one song every 2 days, you just get it done. That's not a bad way to do it. For us, it's been, maybe will be for the next record. We'd love to do that, but to gather the whole band, where everybody's busy out touring with other bands and artists, it's really logistically difficult, you know.
Yeah.
So, but to let it stuff sit around and you get sidetracked and you get, you know, when can we do the next day of guitars? When can we do when can Mark do the next song on vocals? And then, you know, it quickly drags out and drags out and drags out. And we've had about 2 years of um, getting some of our business details together as far as the proper label and back and forth and things and you know, just talking to managements and different things, and it's been
Yeah.
really really dragging out for that reason as well. So it's nice to finally get it out.
Yeah. Yeah, we as fans, we're happy. So it's it's going to be
Cool.
exciting. And also if you get to play around well, nationally, and also go to Europe eventually, and maybe even Japan, who knows, right? I mean, Mark Bowles is pretty big in Japan, so
He is, and I've been there with Ingve, and we've all been there. Mike's toured there, and Rob, I can't remember if he's performed there, but it's a good. I think it's a really good market. I think our band has the components of what could be really huge in Japan. You know, if you look at the bands that really made it huge over there, they like melodic bands, people that know how to play well. And yeah, like you said, Mark especially has done well over there. You know, before with both Ingve and Ring of Fire and Royal Hunt. He's believe he's going to Japan in a couple of days to play.
Yeah, I think I saw something on Instagram. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So let me ask you a couple of things about the. I know you changed to Ibanez a few years ago, so you're an Ibanez artist now, and you're still with EBS Sweden. You have that they have been the main sponsor for you since the beginning, essentially, right?
It's one of my longest, not my very first, but I've been with them since 2003, and we've been through, you know, wonderful times for the most part, but of course, you know, it's like a marriage. We've had that, but also when you have sometimes conflict or confrontation or friction, sometimes that could break the relationship or it can make it stronger. In our case, it made us stronger. We allowed for honesty, and when we talk and communicated, and every time I communicated with them, it was very honest and very direct and no sugarcoating. So what do you think about the product? I would talk to Mats, the head engineer, and I would tell him straight out. And he knows I love this stuff. But if I thought there could be improvements or there was problems, I would tell him. And that just made the relationship so much stronger. And the CEO, Bo, and I developed a really good friendship through the years. And it's been really cool, you know, with everybody over there, you know, Ralph as well, and everybody else. Ralph, who does the artist relations and stuff like that. It's been really cool, and it's easy to get behind. First of all, you need to love the products and not be scratching your head going like, "What? I'd rather play this other amp." It's never been the case for me ever.
Yeah.
You know, so that's easy. That's the part you have to have, you know. You have to love the products, and then it's a matter of developing a great relationship with a company of have mutual respect, and where you can do things and be a mutually beneficial relationship, and that's really been great with us. And you know, I've been loyal to them, and they've been good to me. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, it's a win-win. And I mean, speaking of being honest about things, I mean, you're a professional musician. You have been that for many years. If you mention things that you think that could improve the product, that's a win for EBS Sweden as well, or any product you work with, right? Because that's like when you have a customer or when you have a partner, whatever it is, honesty builds stronger relationships, like you said, because we can always improve, all of us. And when it comes down to products, the better product, the better they will sell. So I think that's a good thing to think about.
Well, I think the musical instruments, the companies that do listen to the artist and allow for product development and improvements that way are the ones that are going to survive, because you can be like Mats, that's the engineer for EBS. In my humble opinion, is there's nobody beats him. He's like 5 years or more ahead of everybody else. What he did 10 years ago, other companies are picking up now. But it doesn't matter. He's not out touring. He needs people that are touring and recording. He needs the feedback, because he's not seeing the problems in the office. He's sitting in the office, So, and it's impossible. So if you don't have that, and you're up for, I think, failure sometimes, because there's stuff happens on the road, or things go wrong. If you don't fix those little bugs in the equipment, you're going to lose your endorsing artists, and you're going to lose customers too, because not just the touring guys are going to notice it. People that the weekend warriors are going to notice it too, and nobody wants stuff to go wrong when they're out gigging and stuff. So it's I've noticed that. I've worked with companies that they didn't appreciate my feedback, or they wouldn't listen, and a lot of them are no longer around.
Out of business. Yeah,
out of business. Absolutely.
Yeah. So another question. So speaking of EBS Sweden, so we saw a band, one of our new favorite bands. It's a young band out of Stockholm, Sweden, called Bloodstain, and we were like, oh, let's check this out. And think about like Metallica, Ride the Lightning / Megadeth back in '84.
Yeah.
That's what they sound like, and what they look like as well. And on the video we saw with them, I Am Death, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that title.
And they're very young. Aren't they in high school still, or like 19?
Yeah, I
very
think so.
young. So,
yeah. Yeah, I think one is out of high school or something.
Yeah.
But they are so incredibly good. So I want you to check them out. But what I wanted to say is that EBS Sweden actually sponsored them, or borrowed their bass amp stack for the video. And I'm like, oh, they play EBS Sweden. I was like, well, super cool. I was thinking about you then. And I'm like, well, this is awesome, because I know Ralph, he is always looking for up and coming artists. So
it's one of the last companies that I know that still haven't been bought up. A lot of them eventually get bought up by Fender or something, or Gibson, and sometimes they crush them and put them out of business, or the people take over. One of the few companies like that, the owner is still hands-on, and he'll drive over with an amp to artists sometimes and hang out at the gig, and really like a personal, really relationship, and it's so cool. And DiMarzio's another company like that, where Larry DiMarzio is still involved with the artist. And when I first joined, he pick up the phone, and we were talking for 45 minutes, an hour, about pickups and wiring and stuff like that. And it's so cool to have that, which a lot of companies, you don't get that. You might get in touch with a new artist relation guy that got hired 2 months ago, but the company's been around for 20 years. But still, that's really cool. And EBS really does that still to this day, really hands-on, with people and artists, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking of Ibanez, I mean, they have a lot of signature artists. Is that something you have talked to them about, or something in the works? Having a signature model? Because I would buy it.
They're aware. They're aware of my desires, or all that stuff, and I think it would be really good for them. They don't have a player of my style or caliber of the style. They have some wonderful metal guys. Steve DiGiorgio is just awesome, and is a great asset. And then they have some cool jazz guys, but there's no classic rock guys or that type of at all. And it's especially signature artists. And I think I could really add to the roster. And I would love to, but it's sometimes it's companies have their reason, and you have to respect that. They're great, they're wonderful, and I love working with them. They're really really cool. And Tyler and Mike at the LA custom shop are just super helpful, and we work closely together. They just built me a custom bass. I got it about a year ago, and it's just it's
Yeah.
really cool. So, which that could definitely be a signature bass. I'll show it to you. I've got it right here. In fact, I just
Oh
happen to
yeah,
have it right here. But yeah,
that's beautiful.
so it's the Desert Fire bass. That was the whole idea, was to have a Desert Fire bass, and
Oh
it's
shit, I
here.
didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah. So
That
it's
is
just
really cool.
it's a complete custom. It's different than this is a Talman bass, and they have a Talman line of basses. Now they're down to they've kind of cut down to maybe one or two now. They had a few different ones before, but it's got some custom what do you call it? Body through bridge. David's
Oh yeah.
bridge, obviously.
Oh,
Oh,
Great
wow.
amazing
okay.
bridges, and DiMarzio pickups, and it's got 6 bolts in the back to hold the neck down. And I have 2 extra frets, 22 instead of 20. 3 pickups, all DiMarzio's, all passive. I don't like active electronics on 4-string basses. And
Oh yeah.
it's got the hip shot is here, the D tuner made by
Wow.
Hipshot.
Oh
Awesome
yeah, yeah.
invention. All my basses have one of those, and that's it.
Yeah.
And a brass nut, which gives it a little bit more solid and more attack, more brightness.
Yeah, because
And,
that's a good point, because I've been thinking about that. I know that John Sykes had that on his guitars, and Yngwie has that on his signature as well.
mhm.
So I will always wonder why brass and
Well, a good question. I think it's well, 3 reasons. Number one, it sounds more solid, and then the more brightness, I would think, especially. Number
Mhm.
2, you could basically, or they could break. It could break potentially, and it looks
Yeah.
cool. So
Yeah.
Very
with all
cool.
gold, yeah, with all gold hardware. I was like, hey, you know what? So it's basically all my design, and Tyler and Ivan, as we kind of talked things through, and he everything that was possible they did. There
Yeah.
was a couple of things maybe that weren't possible to do, but very few things. It was maybe some things with the wiring and combining the 3 pickups, but we made it happen. So
Yeah.
it's
So it's kind
really
of your
happy.
signature
It's super
model
cool.
in a way.
Yeah.
It is. It just hasn't been put in production. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So no, it's a really good company. So I'm very happy, and the product uh, quality control is the right word. Is just amazing. They make them in Japan, and some of them are Indonesia, but they check the basses and the guitars a couple of times before they even leave Asia, and then they come over to Pennsylvania, to the main office, Ibanez or Hoshino office, and they check them again, or the factory warehouse, I should say, and then they
Mhm.
come over to the LA custom shop. So some of the bases, when I get them, they've been checked 4 times before they even get in my
Wow.
hands, and it's just the craftsmanship is amazing. And so
So you don't have
yeah.
to do any own setup. It's already done. You like plug it in
Well,
and start shredding.
I can't, for a lot of times I can, but I do my own setups anyway, a lot of times, with as far as the action and how everything, because
Yeah.
that's just really a personal thing. But if I would let them do everything, it would still be great, but some things are real personal, how I want certain strings, or how close I want the pickups. I kind of readjust things a little bit to my liking, and
Yeah.
also to other basses, how the pickups are really close, or a certain distance to the strings. I have the same DiMarzio pickups on one of my other basses, and when I switch back and forth, they need to match. If I've used 2 basses in a show, they need to match the
Yeah.
tone and the volume as much as possible. So that's
Yeah.
all
That makes
personal
sense.
adjustments, really. Yeah.
So I think we are manifesting now the Bjorn Englen Desert Fire bass,
Put it
Ibanez
out in the
bass.
universe.
Yeah, we put it out there, right?
In the desert fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Desert Fire. I would love that. I
Yeah.
think this bass is super cool, and I love the gold hardware. And back in the day, I mean, up until recently, I'm like, I always want to have chrome or black chrome on guitars and basses, but the last few years, I'm like, well, actually, gold is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm surprised why more people don't use it, or more guitar manufacturers don't put them on. It used to be. I used to work in a music store back in Sweden before I moved over here, and the gold hardware guitars were more kind of like the jazz guys would buy them
Mhm.
Yeah.
for whatever reason. It was like, but then when it came for me to make this custom bass, I'm like, what about gold hardware? I'm like, that would be so rad. And I'm like, then I'm thinking like, how come like nobody does that anymore, or rarely, like in
Yeah.
the the popular rock or pop or metal guitar players or bass players don't really use gold hardware, which maybe that'll change now. I don't know.
I think it may.
Because it has a brass look to it, and if it looks more like brass, which is maybe a little bit richer than the gold back in the day, it just looks richer and more expensive and just
classier.
classier. Yeah,
it looks a little toned down, maybe a little bit more.
Gives it a brass look, which is just grand.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Yeah, I agree.
That's true.
Yeah, and also Bjorn, our mutual friend Henrik Danhage, his new, he has the signature model from Charvel that is out in production. He called it the battered beast.
Very nice.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a SoCal or Sandimas model, but it's all distressed, right? But his new one, that is only one made so far by the custom shop at Fender in Corona. So that is a red one, but it's still the battered beast. So it's completely distressed. But he has gold hardware.
Yeah, and that one.
Like gold Floyd Royce and Floyd Rose. Yeah. But it's only one made so far, one of a kind. But they have a plan to have that in production eventually, maybe. So
nice, good for him. Nice.
Yeah. So
cool.
Speaking of gold hardware, so it's getting more and more popular, and all the good guys have gold. So
I know, right on.
Yeah,
right on. Cool.
So a couple of things before we let you go. So I know, obviously on your website, you have the socials to your Facebook and Instagram and all that. I also know that do you still take students? Because I know you're teaching a lot.
I do. I do take students online, in person, or I'll even go to their location.
Okay.
For obviously slightly higher fee. And absolutely. And I've been taking on guitar students too lately, and if they get too massively shredding, I have many wonderful teachers I can send them to, but so far it's been okay.
Okay.
People have my guitar player friends have always told me or asked me why don't you teach guitar too? And I'm like, well, and then it's been good for me too, because it makes me play guitar more. I almost never play guitar otherwise, and it's just helps me polish up my guitar skills as well. So it's good.
So if a potential student watches this, how do they get a hold of you?
They can email me at lessons@bjornenglen.com.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to put the link, and also put a little bit, when we edit this video, we put it at the email address here at the bottom.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
So the last question, I know you mentioned one of the concerts was Motorhead. What was your first concert ever? Was that Motorhead?
Oh, my first even small show that I went to see a band. That's a really good question. I can't believe I can't recall that, because it was sort of like a gradual thing of maybe seeing some tiny bands at a school dance up to, no, I think maybe when I was 11, 12, my very first band was a punk band with my friend Max that I grew up with, and he just lived a couple of blocks away, and we would play on a homemade one-string guitar and play drums on a pillow, and then we would record that and bounce it from one tape recorder to another. It was crazy. And we would go at 11. He was, I think, 11. We would go to this place closer to downtown in our little town, which was very big, but a few maybe 3 mile bike ride.
Yeah.
And we would go. They had this little basement. They had punk concerts, and there was actually some known punk bands like. Like a Tusk, Task. You probably, I don't know if you remember them, and
Yeah.
shouldn't translate that, and like these known. I'm trying to think of all the names, but I knew of them because my friend Max knew. He was a big, huge punk fan,
Yeah.
and also a big Kiss fan. But now he's more like a rock metal fan. But he was all punk back then, so he knew all the punk bands, and they would come and play little shows around there, and this little basement place. I remember we would go see shows, and those were probably some of my very first things that I ever saw. And then gradually I'd see, friends play at these youth centers or school dances that I'd sneak into and see when I was 13, 14, 15. And it's funny because these guys, they remember me. I was like the fan, and now when I perform, they come to see me, and they're like headbanging in the audience, and I'm like, this is really strange, you know. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
cool, full circle. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that.
so
And it's always fun to come home to your hometown. I mean, you as a famous musician now, you must be like the biggest guy ever out of Växjö, and Mats Wilander.
yes, and but it's people don't seem to bother me too much. It's a little bit of that Swedish, what do you call it? Jantelagen,
Jantelagen, yeah.
it's the
Yeah, we
Swedish
talked about
We
jealousy.
it.
just met, yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
supposed to,
You're not
and I
supposed to
think it's
recognize
especially
him.
when you
Yeah.
move from Sweden, you become, yeah, when you move from Sweden, you become the black sheep. If you stay in Sweden and they feel like you're loyal to them, and then they could really idolize you. But if you move, kind of like Ingve did too, you become the black sheep and you become the a-hole
Traitor.
for no reason. Yeah, absolutely
How
traitor, and it's a
dare
little bit of
you?
that yes, refuse to recognize kind of thing, and
Yeah.
so it's okay. But yeah, but we had some wonderful music coming out of my town, out of Växjö. There was a band called The Ark that hit the big lists,
Oh, yeah.
that had a lot of hits back in 20 years ago. They were pretty successful, but we kind of grew up together and would rehearse next door to one another and stuff like that. But yeah, it's time goes by, and some people just are sort of disconnected because I left a long time ago, and some of the younger people may not be aware and stuff like that, and so
Right. I
it's
mean,
okay. It's interesting, but it's bizarre in a way, but it's just reality.
yeah. And I mean, you have lived longer in the US than you lived in Sweden, right?
Yeah, I've been 32 years here, and I was 21 years in Sweden. So this is and Sweden will always be home, but
Yeah.
I in a sense feel more rooted here in some ways, and then for natural reasons. But yeah,
Yeah. No, and I mean, I only been here for, what is it now? 13 years.
Wow.
And
It's
Yeah.
counting.
You're a newbie.
It's counting.
yeah, I'm a rookie here.
Yeah.
But to your point, I mean, Sweden will always be home for me as well. And now I haven't been home for 3 years. I'm super excited to come back in June 2025. So the first time in 3 years. It's going to be very, very fun to see all the people, and, not only my hometown, but also in Stockholm and Gothenburg and so on. So,
Right.
and hopefully I
Yeah,
get
a
to
lot of
see,
people gather.
yeah,
Yes.
when we leave Sweden Rock Festival, hopefully stop by Micke Ringdahl, say hi for a bit. So,
Oh, he would love that. That'd be
yeah,
great. Yeah, he should. He should definitely.
yeah, I
Yeah.
miss the
So yeah,
guy.
you'll see. Oh, he's awesome. He's always been very supportive of me, and he was my music teacher when I was 9, and he was 19, and he came in and out of the blue, like, because back then everything was very old fashioned, and the music teacher I had before was a real a-hole and really like old fashioned, kind of not in touch with reality at all. And Mickey came in, and everybody was like, wow, we have the coolest music teacher possible. ever. And he's just a dear friend, and he's been following my whole career, like before I moved and after I moved. He's always been very supportive, and we're close friends. And he's actually playing a solo on one of the tracks on the Desert Fire album.
Oh, really?
Oh,
cool.
That's good news.
Yeah, it's really good news. Yeah, because
and he's even cooler. He's on the second track, which is called Las Vegas, which is about Las Vegas. So there you have it.
You see, it's all like almost a full circle. I don't know how that makes sense, but
right.
Yeah, that's the song, Las
And,
Vegas. Yeah, that's a cool title.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Yeah, we'll have a video for that out real soon. So check it out. But yeah, I wrote the music for that song I wrote in Las Vegas, and so it was pretty fitting that the song would be about Las Vegas. So I decided to write the lyrics about it.
Oh, I love that.
Well,
yeah, speaking of Las Vegas, so next time you're in town, you should come and sit in our podcast studio, and we have a new kind of concept. We call it a Talk Fest.
Yeah.
So it's more of a podcast instead of not like a formal interview, but more like just chill podcast, hanging out, talking. We did one with Ira Black and Jessica Chase a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first episode in our second studio. Now we are in Studio 1, but in Studio B or 1 or 2, we have the podcast setting. So it's will be super fun when you're in town if you can, make it happen.
Super cool. Yeah, I'd love that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
So yeah, Bjorn, we're so happy for you. Desert Fire comes out April 4th.
Yes.
And we are hoping a lot of fans will catch your download the songs from different. Are you going to have it on Spotify, by the way? No,
it's on all the streaming platforms and on iTunes, and you can go to soulsignband.com and get buy the downloads, buy the CD or buy the vinyl.
Right.
And
okay.
So and we'll ship it to you anywhere in the world. So
oh wow.
And we will put all the information down below. So
yeah, we will put everything in the description box. So with links and also the link to your email, for guitar and bass students who want to sign up and do lessons.
Awesome.
That would be awesome, man. Well,
awesome.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Bjorn. Looking forward to see you face to face very soon. But
likewise,
have a good evening, and
you too.
Talk on.
Peace out. Take care, guys. Thanks.
You too.